right, folks, we're gonna call the October 19th, 2022 Little Cal River Basin Commission Development Commission meeting to order. Mr. Baker is detained, so I will be sitting in his absentia. So let's start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of
America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Lambert, roll call, please.
Thomas Lindsay,
Here.
John Gozdecki,
Here.
Anthony Brodnick,
Present.
Derek Nimitz,
Here.
Dave Castellanos,
Here.
Ron Ware,
Here.
Robert Oshie,
Here.
Levon Whitaker,
Present.
William Baker, absent.
All right, moving along, approval of the September 21st, 2022 meeting minutes.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 21st of 2022.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second. Mr. Lambert?
Thomas Lindsay,
Yes.
John Gozdecki,
Yes.
Anthony Brodnick,
Abstain.
Derek Nimitz,
Yes.
Dave Castellanos,
Yes.
Ron Ware,
Yes.
Robert Oshie,
Yes.
Levon Whitaker.
Abstain.
Chairman's report, since the chairman's not here, I'm just gonna say, we're just gonna move to the finance report. Approval of the claims from October 22.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the claims for October 2022 in the amount of $452,246.51.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second. We have a second.
Okay, just to go over some of the higher claims, and then if you have any questions about the others, I'd be happy to answer it. You have construction for $118,549.50 for the North Cod flood wall. Dyer construction, $80,522.05 for the flood wall joint sealant for stage 7. That's the stage between Columbia and North Cod. That's they're ultimately gonna do both sides, as you know, both the Hammond and the Munster side. The sealant is failing. $50,017.95. Well, that's really easy. For the Lake Little Calumet Conservation Collaborative effort, that's Lake County Parks has taken the lead on that. That's a payment for the initial upgrading of the wetlands. We have a couple tree reimbursements along with United Consulting, which combined is about $23,000 for overseeing the flood control gate well replacement. That's mainly taking place in the Wicker Park Highland area. Beyond that, if you have any particular questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
The Dyer construction percent complete.
Dyer construction, I would say 45% complete. They're a little bit ways just before they make the turn onto the Hammond side. So
Do they think they'll be done by the end of the year or not?
I think it's all weather dependent. As we talked earlier, it needs to be at least 40 degrees for them to apply the sealant. So if the weather's like Monday, Tuesday, and today, I would say no, but the weather's picking up, and so hopefully it can stay out for a little bit longer. But realistically, I would say they're going to complete it next year. We're just going to run out of good days.
And the mowing bill, is that the last one for the year?
We think so. They have some availability in November, unless the weather gets ridiculous. I think this is going to be probably the last one for this year, this cycle. It's still low right now from when they cut it at the end of September. So
Anybody else? Okay. Ms. Lambert?
Thomas Lindsay,
Yes.
John Gozdecki,
Yes.
Anthony Brodnick,
Yes.
Derek Nimitz,
Yes.
Dave Castellanos,
yes.
Ron Ware,
Yes.
Robert Oshie,
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Executive Director's report.
So I'll just go through some of the higher points because we have a bunch of presentations. The Griffith levy, we are accepting bids today. We will be opening them later on this meeting. Look forward to seeing what type of numbers come in. Hard ditch bank stabilization, that's the project we're working with Lake County on with Parks Ditch. We had phase one, which was roughly between Park West and Twin Creeks, and then the second phase is going to continue all the way north from Twin Creek Boulevard all the way up to the railroad tracks. The town of Munster has verbally committed $100,000 to this project. The county opened bids this morning for phase two. It was estimated to cost $980,000 according to the engineer. The low and most responsive bidder so far came in at $716,000, so quite lower than what we expected, which allows us probably to keep going and fix some more items in the months ahead. The natural spring, we were hoping to wrap that up here. Actually, we had scheduled a meeting for tomorrow. That meeting got delayed till next Friday because of some delays. All the pavers are in, all the dirt is in, the lighting pole is a delay. That will be delayed for the first week in November 7th. And then the shade structure is out until I believe it's December 2nd or the week of December 2nd. So slight delay, but seeing all projects are facing the same problem. In project mitigation, there was a final walkthrough. I was not able to participate in it firsthand, but I got an update. Only a couple minor issues with spraying some invasive species. Otherwise, the project is complete, it is on budget, and the significance of it is the last project that this commission will partner with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on. So there will really be no price changes at the end. And so we just have to finish up our crediting as well as our acquisitions, and we'll be able to close out the project, which I have a meeting in Chicago on Friday to discuss with their deputy director of projects or civil engineering. And we hope to close it out in the spring of next year. Calumet Avenue pedestrian bridge, we already participated in our money. There was some delays with concrete, I guess, and painting the bridge. But hopefully the weather holds out. Maybe they can still put that bridge together or at least set it before the end of this year. But very likely that will be next year. Stage 7 seal we discussed going well. The Army Corps is happy with the outcome. They actually did a brief inspection of it while they were touring the flood wall at Northcott. Speaking of Northcott flood wall, that is complete, was successfully constructed and the Corps approved. Took 36 minutes to complete, and quite honestly, a lot quicker than what the town of Munster had going for themselves in previous things with putting concrete barriers out there. So hopefully that will be never used, but if it is, we'll be in a lot better situation. The Calumet seepage study, we have a preliminary report that you have been that you received, that we have reviewed. It is not the final. This is just simply something that we've been going at it for, I believe, 7 months. And you guys wanted to see something, or at least preliminarily, what their thoughts are on it. We're still waiting for a, believe it or not, a high water event so that we can get a better understanding of what's all happening, but they do have some initial thoughts, DLC does on that subject matter. So with that, we do have 5 presentations or 5 applications that are up. We went through the advisory board, you got the report, and then they're going to provide you, all the applicants are going to provide you with a presentation. Certainly you'd be open to ask and answer any questions that you may have.
Start with the first one.
Yeah, are we ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Any questions, guys?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, are we I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chairman, are we actually acting on these or just tonight?
No,
or just listening?
we're going to gather information tonight, ask questions, and then for future action.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just for everyone, all these presentations will be spliced up where you can review them and view them later. The public can, the board can, for any questions or review before their vote. So with the first one, we have the town of Maryville. Matt Lake is out there in Zoom land. He is going to present on Hayes Farm drainage improvement, and this is going to be engineering. Is that correct?
That is correct. Can you hear me? Okay.
We got you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dan, and I appreciate the board for having us here at the October meeting. With me here today is Darren Olson from Christopher Burke Engineering, and our proposal today is for a project out in what we call the Panhandle area. It's more of the agricultural part of the town, and what we have here is what we would consider an urban ag interface project, and we've been working with the farmer that owns the land, Mr. Bud Hayes. And what we have here is 2 subdivisions, and then we got an ag field in between them. We've got 93rd and Randolph. I don't know if, Darren, can you share the screen with the presentation on there?
Sure, Matt. I think that your presentation is up there. I can share mine.
See it? It's as a PDF. So, so what we have here is, the 2 low areas within the ag field, and to the east of the ag field, you have a grass field subdivision, and to the south, you have Auburn Hills, and Randolph Street is on it runs north and south, and to the north is 93rd Avenue. And those two low areas impact each subdivision. We believe there's a lot of old farm tile, old clay tile that has failed over the years. And so in working with the farmer, we thought we can kind of have a win-win situation here where we solve the drainage issue or the ponding issue with the subdivisions as well as Randolph Street. And then the farmer also gets some additional yield to plant additional acreage of crops without loss. And so we've been working with Farmer Hayes, like I said, and he had granted us an easement. We have the easement recorded. And with that, I'm going to let Darren kind of take it from there and explain a little bit about our strategy for draining this area off into the unnamed tributary of Deep River.
Sure. Thanks, Matt, and thanks everyone for having us tonight. So the map that you're seeing here, the second screen shows the farm itself. It's the backwards L-shaped, and over time it has from 1978 you can see it was draining just fine. Even after development in 2005, still there's a lot of crops on the field. Now you see maybe one minor wet spot, but by the time we get to 2020 in the right hand side, something has really gone. Yes, something has gone awry out there, and so in 2022, you could even see that up on the upper right hand corner, the standing water is now actually encroaching on the subdivision to the east. And so, as Matt had indicated, the goal of this project is to restore drainage in this property. That's going to improve drainage not only for the Hayes Farm, but for the subdivision to the east there, and then also the subdivision to the south, because as water gets high enough in that western low spot, it also then begins to impact drainage in that southern subdivision. Next slide, please. So we've done some preliminary analysis of this, as Matt had indicated. We've studied this in enough detail so we can start looking at getting easements, which we have secured. These 2 depressional areas we see shown in blue here, they generally drain from the right to the left, or from the kind of the northeast to the southwest. When they get high enough, they eventually overflow through the farm field, end up at the depression near Randolph Street, and then make its way on to the floodplain area that is located west of Randolph through a culvert under Randolph Street. But right now, the drainage here is so deficient that we get this standing water for prolonged periods and impacting the adjacent residents. Next slide, please.
Let's go in here, hang on.
I could pull up on my screen too, Matt, if that's easier.
Yeah, it's sometimes something's wrong with this. Unless this is. Yeah, it's not wanting to let me.
Let me share mine. Let me share mine real quick.
Okay, I'll stop sharing here. Just so you're aware, while Darren's bringing this up, I did contact NRCS too, just to see if there are any cost share programs through the Farm Bill to assist with this. We did meet on site, and their conclusion was with the current Farm Bill programs, there was nothing to assist. I've worked with NRCS in the past, designed a lot of grass waterways and things in partnership with them, and some other agricultural practices. So I was kind of surprised that they didn't have something that would help out given the circumstances. So that's why we're here today.
And hopefully everyone can see my screen. And this is the last slide of our presentation. You know, a very simplistic drainage system we're proposing to install. It will be small diameter, so we'll maintain the depressional storage on site, but will allow this area to, after storm events, to drain down much more efficiently. There is a drainage easement on the west side of Randolph Street that goes through that property and into the floodplain area that you see in light blue. And that's going to be the ultimate outlet for this drainage system.
Another component to the project is we're going to be using ADS recycled pipe. It's 60% recycled content. It's high density polyethylene. I did apply for a grant to IDM. I'm meeting with them in the final round for next week. And my application was for 24,000 linear feet of 12-inch high density polyethylene recycled pipe. I think this is going to take up about maybe 1,900 of that. Is that right, Darren, somewhere in there?
That's correct. I think we're roughly 2,000 linear feet here.
Yeah, and so our ask was for half of the engineering costs on this project, which comes out to be $23,425.00. Unless you have anything else, Darren, we could entertain any questions from the board.
No, we kept it short and sweet.
Matt, was this on the original list that you guys provided years back as to one of the projects?
This was not. We've tackled a lot of those projects that are on our list, and those were mostly in the urbanized portions of town. And so we're branching out and trying to get the urban ag interface problems throughout the town as well. And this was one that was identified. We're looking to update our master plan as well. So I know we've made some progress over the years. We've tackled a lot of projects, a lot of big projects that were on that plan. And I believe you guys are probably looking to update yours as well. So it'd be good to kind of coordinate and kind of branch out in some of these other areas of town. But our focal point initially was in the urban portions of town. So this was not a part of that original assessment.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Go on, Ron.
Chairman. On the slide that you presented in the low-lying area in the bottom, the southwest corner, does that build up and then overtop Randolph, or is the pipe at enough capacity to flow to the west underneath Randolph? Has there been overtopping? Has it impacted traffic?
There has been overtopping in the past. We had put a temporary overflow pipe there to try to help out, but it's still an issue. And so that's kind of a secondary concern as Randolph. The primary are the residents that when this whole thing gets inundated, it spills out into the properties, jeopardizing the homes nearby. So that's our primary concern is the residents within the Grassfield subdivision and Auburn Hills subdivision.
Do you have a number of occurrences on record last 3 years, 5 years of the overtopping that impacted that traffic? And, you know, the town or somebody had to come and do the overground pipe?
We have records of when we actually installed the overflow pipe. but we don't keep track of every time we put up barricades on the streets. Typically, that's done through Public Works, and but we don't document every time that and that happens for throughout the whole town. But I can tell you it's significantly been reduced since we've been implementing all of our projects throughout the town. So so those occurrences are typically few and far between unless we get some substantial rain events where the system can't handle it.
Thank you.
So Matt, is there a culvert underneath Randolph to go to the wetland area? For the
There is an old drain tile that was put in by the farmers many years ago. And like I said, we had installed up higher elevation. We had installed a 10-inch pipe there to just be like a secondary overflow. But I can tell you that the old clay tile is failing miserably. And that's why there is an easement west of Randolph. We did our research and we found a recorded easement, drainage easement east of Randolph exactly where that old drain tile is. But what we were missing as part of the puzzle was the easement to do a project throughout that whole farm field. And that's when we started coordinating with Mr. Hayes and trying to get that done. So we got that signed and recorded. So it is a drainage easement through there for us to work in.
So how are you going to address, you put this new piping in, how are you going to make sure the water can flow underneath Randolph if you don't put in new culvert?
We will put a new culvert in. We're going to run it all the way to the unnamed tributary to Deep River there on the east side of Randolph.
And is that part of this project cost or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks a lot, Matt.
Okay, thank you very much.
The next presentation will be done by the town of Cherville, Neil Simsat from Nice Engineering. Sunset Boulevard Detention Project initially was approved by this board in April of 2017 and now is looking for construction of the detention project. Neil's at the microphone. Just you keep make sure you're in with the microphone so everyone at home can hear.
You got it, Dan. Thank you, board members. We appreciate your consideration tonight. This is a project that, as Dan had mentioned, was in the Cherville project list for your initial master plan. And that was funded 80-20 for design from the board. And what we've seen as part of our analysis is an opportunity to provide detention in the neighborhood of 57.42 acre feet of detention storage in an area generally southwest of the intersection of US 30 and US 41 on the east side of Sunset Boulevard, which is just directly south of Old Lincoln Highway in Cherville. And this is an area that currently experiences some elevated water issues that what we looked at was providing a weir structure, not only for detention, but for maintenance of this area to allow the detention to be controlled rather than run unabated through the 3 36-inch storm sewers that run underneath Sunset Boulevard. The project that we currently have and are requesting funding for on an 80% basis being $425,000 total construction cost. $340,000 is the request. And what we also additionally did was look at current residential and commercial developments in the town of Cherville and to generate about 5 acre feet of storage with their infrastructure and detention pond construction that was well over $500,000. So we're looking for a lesser amount to increase this by an order of magnitude from 5 acres to 57 acres. So what we're doing is not changing the low and high water elevations. We're just proposing to mitigate those at a 100-year storm, a 16-hour duration to provide an opportunity for all the downstream areas in the Schilling, Dyer, Plum Creek, Hart Ditch, all the way up through the Little Cal to the north. So the area benefited is essentially everything north and west of US 30 and 41 up to the Little Cal. We calculated release rates based on that storm, and using those, the required detention of this area, should it have been developed, would have been about 47 acre feet. And with the weir structure we're proposing for not only detention, but for maintenance of this area, that will provide 57.42 acre feet of storage. This is a fairly simple project because we're not proposing to do massive conveyance structures. It's simply a sheet pile weir with restrictors in there and the allowance for the town of Cherville Public Works Department to be able to provide maintenance for that, to allow that detention to happen within this area. The studies we did prior to coming to you guys back in 2017 and subsequent to that, we determined that due to the fact that we're not increasing the high water levels that currently exist in this area, we're only mitigating the release of that. And then once they hit anything above that 100-year, 16-hour storm, there will be no potential damage to any surrounding residences, commercial or otherwise, in that area north of 77, west of US 41 and south of US 30. So it's a fairly simple project, but as everyone's seeing with supply chain issues, the structure we're looking is going to be a sheet pile structure, and then the restrictors, the weirs, and then the circular restrictors will be modified once that structure is in place. That's where we have the proposed costs, and working with several contractors and material suppliers of the sheet piles is the $425,000 for construction. We appreciate your time, and I will entertain any questions you may have.
Is the 57 acres on top of what's there now, or is it part of what's there?
The 57 acre feet that's being utilized through this structure currently exists, but it runs currently unabated through those 336-inch pipes. And what this will do will, what we've seen in large storms that essentially flush the debris to those 336-inch culverts, the high water does exist, but it doesn't have the opportunity to be released as those culverts are plugged. This will allow the town not only to maintain the structure, but provide that detention as a side benefit, which already does exist.
So there's a lot of culverts as part of this whole system.
That already exist. You're absolutely
And
correct.
what kind of condition are they in?
Those were replaced in 2008, if I'm correct, due to a failure from existing corrugated metal pipes. Those were all replaced by the town with the Public Works Department with high-density polyethylene.
And are you guys monitoring those right now for blockage and flow and everything else?
The town is, they have it on what they call their hot list. They have, half a dozen sanitary sewers, 2 dozen storm sewers, and they do routinely maintain those as needed.
So in your opinion, how much additional acre feet of storage do you think we may benefit from?
What I would say is, that's an excellent question. The better review of this from what we've determined is, when those culverts are plugged, you get the entirety of the 57 acre feet, but everything goes straight to release once they're plugged. And then it may take a few days for the town to get out there and do the maintenance on that. But with what we're proposing with the weir structure, you'll have a consistent regulated release rather than everything going 100% to overflow when those culverts are plugged.
Control flow.
Exactly, yes.
Well, I guess this structure that you're gonna put in, is it gonna be at a fixed elevation or is it gonna be adjusted?
It's going to be a fixed elevation. There's currently a high water overflow that happens across the road, slightly to the north of the area where those 36-inch culverts are located. And it's an incredibly wide area, so the water there never gets more than a couple inches deep. So all we're essentially doing is saying our low water's here during what we would consider a drought elevation. The high water ends up here, and we're going to work within that same elevation and just utilize the area that already exists. But as the water comes up, we'll release it at a rate consistent with what current design standards would be, up to the point where we hit that 100-year, 16-hour storm. And then it would operate as it does currently if those culverts are plugged. But once the waters start to recede, then instead of going, at a direct release, it's mitigated at that restrictor rate.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Ron.
Two questions, I guess. On your cover sheet, you show the proximity of the project on Sunset Boulevard, which is very close to Sherwood Lake. Does a high water event, heavy rain, affect Sherwood Lake? And is this water that could be coming from there that you're looking to trap also? And then number two, on the official application, you call out a possible 20 to 25 homes or structures that could be protected. But then on attachment 4, it says unknown number.
And I'll start at the end. The unknown number is because, as I mentioned earlier, the benefited area is essentially everything downstream. Yeah, so to calculate that number, I'd probably call Bill Emerson and say, put Dan Gossman and figure out every structure downstream of this that could potentially benefit. So that's a very good question. And what that number is, it's in excess of several thousand. The Sherwood Lakes area, which is directly west of this, they do contribute to the area, but they're a reasonably small portion relative to the flow that's ultimately coming south of 77th north to this area. And we had looked in our initial review of every culvert, every structure that was in Sherwood Lakes, that we would not be necessarily negatively impacting them, but allow their systems to work as proposed, and they currently operate. We just utilize that flow between the current low water level and the high water level. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Neil.
Thanks. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to do Lake County Parks, and if I mess up, Craig said he would come fix it for me. The first one will be the Saros land acquisition. Before you, over a year ago, you had this in front of you. The request was for $800,000 because Craig beat some people up and went to the town of Cherville for their parks and the town. They each contributed $100,000, and then DNR contributed some money as well. So now that request is down to $200,000, and this is to make a parkland that will be managed by Lake County, that will not be able to be developed in the western part of Lake County. So their request is for $200,000, and then the Penno property acquisition is property that's adjacent to a regulated drain. Lake County Surveyor's Office is happy to support it, as well as it will help with the Veterans Memorial Park trail. So that request is for $25,800. Greg, did I miss anything?
You hit it really good, Dan.
There you go. Any questions?
Van Oaks at 231 and 113.
It's at Broadway at 231. It's between Penn Oak subdivision and Princeton Townhomes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I need a photo from.
All right. Anybody else? All right.
I got a question.
One, Ron.
The property that's called out in here, this property has already been purchased. This is just to help mitigate it.
No, neither of them have purchased yet. We're hoping to purchase the Cereals property before the end of the year's out. And then same with the Penn Oak property as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So you'd like to ask to act on this sooner than later?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Anything else? We're good? Dan, moving right along.
Karen will not be doing this presentation for the Hammond Sanitary District. They're looking for the Southeast Combined Sewer Overflow with us. I believe behind me is Mark Wilgos, who's the CEO of the Hammond Sanitary District. Jeff Massey, who I don't have an official title for, but I can make something up. Steve is there from was it Donahue, right? Am I right?
Yes.
And is someone else, is Mike on the phone? Is that Mike's phone? Mike Hickey or not?
It is not my case.
All right, well, Mike's phone is not Mike Hickey. So anyways, we have Steve to give the presentation.
Thank you, Dan. So we are requesting,
Name and.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Steve Sticklin with Donahue and Associates,
Thank you.
representing Hammond Sanitary District. We are requesting grant funding to start design of a combined sewer overflow treatment facility on the Little County. This is the approximate location, zooming in a little bit here, the little blue marker down there. That's near, so Cabela's, just to orient you, Cabela's, this is Indianapolis, right north-south, Foreman, and then right over here is Cabela's, so it's across Indianapolis roughly from Cabela's. So here's kind of a close-up aerial view of the area that this will be benefiting. First, the facility will be located approximately here in the center. What it will do is collect combined sewer overflows from these 3 CSO pump stations, which currently discharge a combination of rainwater and raw sewage directly to the Little Calumet River during rainfall events. This creates a number of issues, primarily negatively impacts water quality. Combined sewer overflows are a major impediment to the river reaching its full potential. There are a lot of solids that are discharged annually, along with bacteria and a lot of material that consumes oxygen in the river, which can negatively impact wildlife and fish stocks. So once this project is complete, it will eliminate about 288 acre-feet of CSO discharges per year, a total about 60% of total annual CSO discharges. Probably most importantly is it will eliminate capture and then send back to the treatment plant about 218 tons of solids that are currently discharged to the river every year. This amounts to about 86 dump trucks. So this should greatly eliminate the dredging and cleaning of the river that currently has to take place due to all these solids. These 3 CSO outfalls are the primary source of pollution and solids into the river. So this will eliminate almost all of that. That's basically it. I mean, there's a lot more technicality to it, but I wanted to try to keep it simple, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question about the quantity breakdown of the sediment.
So you'll be combining all 3 of those pump stations to feed one location?
Correct. One pump station has a force main that currently goes through the site. We'll have to do some pumping and pipe work to convey the other 2 pump stations over to the site.
And do you have to go under the expressway for that north pump station?
No, we do not, because there's already the pipe already exists. Right.
Is that empty area right now, or?
Yeah, it's vacant.
Grassland?
It's vacant. Much of it, excuse me, much of it is much of the parcel is designated a wetland. It's a very low quality wetland at that, and the portion of it where we will be building it actually technically is not. So this, it's a little hard to see, but the area surrounding, it's a rather large parcel. It's never really been developed. I think a long time ago there may have been.
Was that one on a fire a few years ago?
Yeah. It's just east of the Starbucks.
Okay, all right, I know.
Right, so the facility will go right here. There's currently, it's not that area specifically where the facility will go is not a wetland, but most of this is a low quality wetland right now. It's never been developed.
So it's the current sediment accumulation is from where? What sources?
Well, these 3 pump stations that you see on the screen, these are combined sewer overflow pump stations. So in dry weather, all the sanitary sewage is conveyed to the treatment plant. However, when it rains, storm runoff mixes with the sewage and exceeds the capacity of the interceptor sewers that take it to the plant. So, and then that excess wet weather flow, you have a mixture of storm runoff and raw sewage that's discharged directly to the river from these 3 pump stations.
And where's that coming from?
It's
Primarily
urban runoff, residential.
from what communities?
So Walnut and Indianapolis are Hammond. The Kennedy Ejector CSO pump station also collects sewage or receives sewage from Griffith and Highland.
Okay, back to your first slide, your 16%. This facility will capture 16% of annual average CSO volumes. And most of the pollutants that are currently discharged to it. The 16% of what total?
Well, 60% of the total, I think there's approximately 500, or I forget the exact number. You have to do the math. The 288 is 16% of, I forget what the denominator is. So I have to do some math. But of the total annual CSO that's discharged in the river, it's 280 divided by 0.1.
And this is in high rain events?
There are CSOs in as little as a quarter-inch of rain.
Does that count the Grand Calumet discharge also?
No,
That total number?
no. This is just from these 3 pump stations.
Okay.
Up a little hill.
But they're only 16% of the CSO of the entire city of Hammond.
This is no. This is what this is saying is that this project will capture 16% of the total CSO from those 3 stations on Little Hill.
Okay.
Not system water.
So we're going to spend $80 million to only eliminate 16%.
Well, this is not. This is primarily a water quality project. It's to get pollutants out of the river, which are a huge impediment, to
We're
develop.
only getting rid of 16%. What about the other 84? You don't care?
Well, no, the water is treated. So what this facility is going to do is, what's going on now is basically a mixture of the pollutants almost all of the pollutants will be captured and sent back to the treatment plant. So what will be discharged from this facility, the remaining 84% will be discharged, but it will be clean. It will go through these filters and it will be disinfected.
So it's a good thing you explained that, because it doesn't come across that way with the slide.
That's not clear. That's not clear in your description on the bottom of page 1 either.
Yeah, perhaps I oversimplified. Earlier iterations of this presentation,
So we're not dumping 84% in the river, is what you're saying?
the 84% of the flow is going, but it's clean. Almost all of the pollutants are captured and concentrated sent back to treatment plant for final removal and disposal.
And 16% represents the amount that is not clean. 84% is clean already, and 16%, which is close to what you just said, the majority of what's being captured is actually going to be treated.
What the 16% is the volume that's actually captured and reduced. So almost all of the pollutants are captured and removed.
Which consists of 16%.
The 16% is the volume that is removed. So there's some storage in this facility, and that volume is a flow equalization tank that will capture the first flush. And that amounts to about, so 60% of the volume will be captured, and almost 100% of the pollutants will be captured. I'm sorry that's not clear. I have other slides that might help clarify this for you. I kind of put them in the supplemental. But here, let me show you. This might make it a little more clear. So this is what the facility, or an example of what one of these filters will look like. So there's the dirty combined sewage coming in from the left. The 16, and then the solids are captured in this treatment facility and concentrated and then sent back to the treatment plant for final removal and disposal. And about 60% of the volume that currently goes to the river will be captured and sent back to the plant. The remaining 84% will go to the river, but that will be cleaned. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure.
So when we get to how much of the pollutants are captured, it's much more than that. We will be capturing about 90% of total suspended solids and almost all of the bacteria that currently goes in there.
I think that graphic probably represents a better picture of what's going on.
So you get,
Go back to the other graphic.
can you go back to that, please?
The other graphic. The graphic you showed, no.
Sorry.
With the table, the one with the table.
Oh, the table, I'm sorry.
I think that tells a better picture of what's going on.
So are these, I'm assuming these are real numbers, the number of existing events, future, you get a forecast of future based on,
These are what we call typical year values based on a collection, a model that was developed in the collection system.
now, is there a place that you guys have, in reference that you've actually done this type of project at, or that has been done in the area? That use this same filtration process to actually abate those CSO contaminants?
I'll jump in here for a second. My name is Marty Wilgus. I'm the CEO of the Hammond Sanitary District. I want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, this project not only affects the water coming from the south of Hammond, but everything in the south of Hammond collects also Highland and Griffith. So we solve both Highland and Griffith's problem right now, including Hammond's problem. That's what this whole project's about. I want to just get that clarified. To answer your question, the new technology that we're talking about, the CMDS, has been used for several years. I call it new technology because both the state of Indiana and the US EPA have agreed that the way we want to apply this system to the project that we're talking about at the Little Calumet River, as the water's coming in from the south, they believe it's going to work. And we are the first that are using this technology in this manner. This technology is currently being used inside wastewater treatment plants to do basically the same thing, but with inside the wastewater treatment plant. We're taking and building it outside the wastewater treatment plant on the base of the Little Calumet River. That's the big difference. And so we actually had to do a test model of this system at the plant, bringing in wastewater combined with stormwater for both Indiana and the US EPA. They came, they saw our test for about 3 months and agreed that they accept this technology.
Was there documentation that followed up after the 3-month study?
Yes. Yes.
What did they initially want?
Well, they wanted more basins. So we have a 30 million gallon basin right now, right across the street from the Hammond Sanitary Plant. It's not pretty. And I totally believe that we have a responsibility to all the communities. It would make no sense. So I challenged the engineers that I said, I want no more basins. There's got to be something out there with new technology. And after beating up our engineers for about 1.5 years, and Jeff will tell you that's maybe even longer, they came up and they said, hey, we found something we think will work. The problem was it wasn't being used the way we wanted to use it at the income of the waste and stormwater. It was being used inside a plant. So we actually had to do the demonstration. I actually paid the company that designs this system to bring one of the units to the plant, set it up, hook it up with direct wastewater mixed with stormwater, so that both, like I said, the state of Indiana and the federal government got a chance to come down and see it work. And I'll let Jeff talk just briefly about the results that came out of this project.
Hi, I'm Jeff Massey, Superintendent of Wastewater Treatment for the Hammond Sanitary District. We did what was called a pilot test of one of these treatment systems, and we had it set up at the district, and we were using mainly raw sewage with a little bit of storm water to see how these systems work. And we were able to achieve near effluent quality through these systems with little hassle whatsoever, little work with it whatsoever. Definitely secondary quality, but nearly as well as the tertiary quality what we're able to get from our whole treatment system. We were pretty pleased with the way everything worked. And we were hitting it with waste that's far worse than we'll ever see on any of these CSOs, and it worked. It was fantastic in how it works. These systems appear in other places, and as Marty said, typically at wastewater treatment plants in Rushville, Indiana, they have a large system like this that takes CSO water at the plant and brings it through the system and then brings it back to the same outfall as the wastewater treatment plant. This one's gonna be a little bit different, that it's freestanding, but it's a proven technology. It works well. It will do wonders for the water quality at Little Cal for these stations, removing a lot of the solids debris and actually shutting off 2 of the 3 discharges that are currently discharging into the river now.
Will the water go to the plant or just gonna go right at?
About 16%
right there.
84% of the water will be treated and sent out right to the river. 16% is these filters collect all of the solids. They'll collect that waste, send it back and send it to the plant for further treatment and disposal of the solids. So all those solids that would normally ended up in the river that you at Kennedy Avenue where you guys have to go clean it out, that's never gonna make the river. It's all gonna come back to the treatment plant by Columbia Avenue, and we will treat it there and take care of it there.
So Jeff, who's the company that actually helped you guys with the proof of concept here?
I'm sorry?
Who's the company that has the filtration technology that actually?
A company called Aqua Aerobics is the one that we're looking at. And I don't know if there's another manufacturer or not. There might be.
Can you repeat that again?
The company's name is Aqua Aerobics.
Okay, thank you. And then was there a target micron filtration that the US EPA required?
This is one of the possibilities for treatment of the water that we looked at. This is the most effective and most easily used and the most cost effective. I mean, there's other ways you could do things that required a lot of chemicals and a lot of sedimentation and things. And this was by far the safest and easiest way to do it. We didn't want to get into an area like this and have to have a lot of harsh chemicals and a lot of treatment that wasn't easily used. This system is pretty self-obtained, pretty self-contained, pretty self-sufficient. It does what it needs to do. It's a simple filter system. Doesn't require a lot of, specialized chemicals or something with it. So it works fairly well all on its own. And that's what the big advantage to this system is.
I think, excuse me, not to answer your question, I think you had inquired about the pore size on the filters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so there are a variety of different cloth media, different types of cloth media. The one that we'll likely use in this application has a pore size of about 0.14 micron.
Okay. And I'm assuming that meets the US requirements.
Well, there's not a requirement, pore size requirement for this particular application. Ultimately, the requirement is that the river meet water quality standards.
Okay.
And this will enable that.
Okay.
So you guys did a pilot and this is an expansion on top of that.
Right, just to give you an idea of the size of this. It's about the size of a football field, all enclosed in a building. It'll be set and designed so that it mixes in with everything that's already there. So it doesn't stick out as a treatment facility within. It's totally, almost entirely unmanned. And there are several of these pieces of equipment. I'm not sure what the total number is. What do we know what the total number is?
Well, we estimate there will be 7 of these operating in parallel.
So 7 of these operating in parallel inside this building. So we wanted to make sure that we picked the right location with the ability to get our pipeline into where we already are located and to be able to accommodate both of our customer communities, Highland and Griffith, to make it easy for them to get to us. So right now you have, everybody dumping into the river when we have to. We're permitted by law. And sanitary is permitted by law. And so this will help eliminate a lot of discharges into the Little Cal, without a doubt. It's a very expensive project, and that's why we're asking this commission for $1 million.
So does anyone have a number of the?
Initially, Marty?
I'm never, I'm never one to tell you something and then come back 4 months later and say, you know what, I missed something.
This is just for the design.
That is correct.
Will you be coming back and asking for money for the final?
I'm being honest with you,
Uh-huh.
and I want to answer the question as directly as I can. I'm always asked about, well, you have 4 customer communities, three customer communities, I should say, Whiting, Highland, and Griffin.
Right.
We treat all of Hammond and all of Munster. Munster's our partner in the district. And everybody says, well, how are you going to pay for all this? Well, part of this is going to be a part of meeting some of our long-term control plan to the tune of about $250 million over the next 25 years. That's what the district and the federal government came to an agreement to. And everybody says, well, how are you going to pay for that? Well, the federal government says, you'll find a way to pay for that. You're bound by the agreement, right? So what I try to do is move in a plan that addresses not only our needs at the plant for basic operation and doing all the things we have, but to also do these type of projects. Because these type of projects, because of the tax caps, are all rate-based. That's how they get funded, rate-based, not by tax base anymore. So that puts a bigger burden on the district because we have a responsibility to not only Hammond, Munster, but our 3 customer communities. So to answer your question, and I get this asked a lot of me, they said, well, all of our chlorine costs have gone up 5 times.
Right.
That's just one of the things that we use at the plant. All of our piping, as I'm sure everybody else here is experiencing, has quadrupled. So what I look at is maintaining a level stream moving forward. I already did the phase 1 on a property that we're looking to acquire. Already getting a number set for engineering, around 4 million, and to be able to keep moving forward slowly. I mean, it was just like the property that we had bought, if you remember. I came to the commission several years ago.
Right.
The Linden property, the west side of Linden in Hammond off of Columbia Avenue. We acquired all those homes because of what I wanted to do was put in a catch basin there of about 1 million gallons that would help us buy time in heavy storm events. That would have been all stormwater, would have not been mixed wastewater. Technology changed. And so I'm not one to move with a project and build more basins when we have the ability to use new technology that makes sense. It's a little more costly, but at the end of the day, it does a way better job. So to answer your question, will I be coming back in 3-4 years? I really don't have an answer to that. It depends on the crazy environment that we're in and what may change. I have no idea.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Anybody else?
So Marty, can you or Scott just give a timeline for base and status of where you guys are on this project?
Well, here's an approximate schedule. So we're pretty far along in the land acquisition process. We've completed the phase 1 environmental site assessment. Didn't find any liens or anything that should preclude the project from proceeding there. So we're in that process. We anticipate completing the preliminary design. We're near the end of this year, although that may have slipped a little bit. We need to complete an asset management plan if we're going to go with SRF funding. But we anticipate a final design regardless being completed at the end of March of 2024. And then hopefully have it built by the end of 2026.
Dave?
Yes, Marty, first of all, I want to compliment you. It's a very impressive presentation that you're making, especially with the new technology. I'm all for new technology. But considering this way this river is and how important it is to the people of Northwest Indiana, I just wanted to know, did you consider a fail-safe plan in the event of power failure or equipment failure that may occur in your design? I'd like to know if you would take that into consideration before we go forward.
Well, actually, we have because of the number of units we're going to have.
Right.
So the possibility of half or more breaking down at once, just not doesn't make it's just not technically, not my scale to think. The filters themselves are always backwashed after an event. So and then we'll have a maintenance person there every day to check on the facility. You have to remember that with the amount of money that's being spent on this project, it's only used in heavy rainfall to prevent the overflows. So it's not something that's running every day. So the idea of the longevity that we can get out of this project even excites me more, because it does two things. It solves the immediate problem of dumping into the river wastewater. It helps our two customer communities in the south, specifically Highland and Griffith. And at the end of the day, it's good for everybody in the environment.
Eric? I guess just to add on that, I don't want to minimize the fact that it's not running every day, because if I read the graph correctly, or the chart correctly, you used a model which said that 28 events. So that's essentially in an annual year, think about a month being 30 days, one discharge from 3 different combined sewer overflows for an entire month each day. That seems like a lot. Even though it's not running every day, that seems like better water quality in the long run.
Well, and you're right. I mean, if you think about it, the wastewater, Haven wastewater treatment plant's rated for 48 million. And we're handling all these communities. So this will help us, because not 100% of all of what's coming across the line, including Southampton, is coming to the wastewater treatment plant. So that's a big plus. And as I said, several years ago, we built that 30 million gallon basin that is technically a big hole in the ground with a liner that was $55 million. So we have some backup. And the good thing about this project, in my mind, is the fact that it meets a lot of the criteria that not only the state of Indiana has set out for us, but also the federal government. And I agree. If you look at, I'm born and raised here in Hammond, Indiana. And I remember as a child going over the Grand Calumet Avenue Bridge, and all you would see is crossbones and skeletons. Don't touch the water, don't. And you would see all the garbage. And you couldn't even see. It was all murky and nasty. I love giving tours at the plant because, one, I like the residents to see what we do. You can only imagine what comes into the plant, which if we don't treat, goes into the little cow. And when we're at the end of the line of treatment, which is all bacterial type of treatment that we do, live organism, at the end of the day, our fluid going out back into the river, back into Lake Michigan, it's so clean, wildlife is returned in abundance, not only to the river, but on the 28 acres that we have on the east side of Columbia Avenue, the main part of the plant. Wildlife of every particular kind. We know there are bald eagles down towards Gary on the Little Cow. I'd like to see them come farther west. This will help without a doubt. And I know it's a lot of money. I know asking anybody for $1 million is a lot of money. I wanted to make sure I was here tonight. And I told Mayor McDermott, I said, you have Mayor's Night Out tonight. I am not going to be there. I'm going to be at this meeting because I think it's very, very important. It's a big project for us. And I wanted to make sure you had a chance to hear from my team and also directly from me.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along. New business.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion to open bids in the Griffith Levee Rehabilitation Interior Drainage Improvement Project.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Mr. Repay.
Yeah, I'll be happy to open them if you want to go on to something else. Well, I don't know what I'm going to get myself into, so I'm going to
Yeah,
get some reading here.
we can move along to the next one, which is statements on the floor. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Lambert.
Conversation.
Yes.
Tom Zalicki.
Yes.
Derek Nivens.
Yes.
Dave Castellano.
Yes.
Ron Ware.
Yes.
John Belushi.
Yes.
Levon Weiler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. So while Dan's opening those bids, we're gonna move to the next item on the agenda, which is statements from the floor. Anybody want to come up and help us out here? Go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Doreen Carey. I live in the city of Gary. And I'm here to ask 3 questions tonight. What happened with the Maya lease agreement? Did Maya Energy pay their lease agreement money that was in arrears as of, I believe, June or July of this year? Number 2 is Calabria, who made a presentation here about taking the development agreement that is currently the lease agreement for Maya. Has anything proceeded in terms of Calabria taking on that lease agreement? And number 3 is, when are you going to come to Gary and bring your group to Gary to talk about these issues with people of Gary and the legislators and the leaders of Gary?
Defer with the first 2 to council as opposed as it relates to the license agreement. All right.
The license agreement payment has been paid.
So there's the answer to the first one. The second one was, had to do with
Negotiations between Maya Energy LLC and Calabria, which I believe the commission has to make a decision on whether that would be approved should they come to you with that request.
Yeah, I don't believe we acted on that at all yet because of the fact of the payment.
Number 3.
Yeah. When are we gonna come?
discussed having the commission come to Gary and talk about how you are making decisions about the use of your properties in Gary and the benefits that would accrue to us if you made decisions that were more recreational and nature, protection of nature oriented, rather than people who manage garbage and will be contributing to the already problems with pollution that we have in Gary.
Yeah, I'll, since I'm just stepping in today, we're gonna have to have the chairman address if we're gonna take the show on the road, so to speak, which we have in the past.
Right, you were in Griffith last month.
We were in Griffith last month, so I think they're trying to move in that direction, so I'm gonna let him speak to that.
All right, when would the, we'd like to know a little bit in advance so we can make sure that people in Gary know you're.
Oh, no, we'll give you plenty of notice that when we're gonna schedule something in the different communities. So we don't just do that willy-nilly, so to speak.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn McCready and I live in Gary, 8241 Locust Avenue. I have a question related to what Doreen asked. What day did you receive the money from Maya? The 110,000.
I don't know.
Wasn't it due on the 10th?
What was it?
Was the money due on the 10th and you received it on the 11th?
I know. It was due on the 10th, but since the 10th is a holiday, by state law, it goes to the next day, which is the 11th, and it would be considered acceptable.
Okay, that may be true. That may be true. However, I would think that since this is so important for Maya to hang on to the lease agreement with you, that they would have not waited until the very last minute and then come in and using the holiday as the excuse. I'm hoping that you can hang your hat on something other than just they paid you money. I just want to say, commissioners, that we don't want this project in Gary. It's already a very polluted area. And as you know, we sent you a letter detailing the level of pollution that it already exists in that area. When you add in trucks every day, well, 6 days a week, sun up to sundown, bringing garbage in addition to the, and this is what they're talking about doing, in addition to the actual operation, you're talking about adding cumulatively a lot more pollution to our environment. And I don't see why you would want to do that. I know you say you have a contract, but you know, you just keep giving them time and time and time to do something. They haven't turned a shovel full of dirt, and now they want to bring in somebody else. I'm glad you say that you haven't done any kind of made any kind of decisions about Calabria. I would certainly hope not, but it should be very clear to you, if you're listening to us, that the city doesn't want this. The mayor has spoken, the people from the city have spoken, environmentalists have spoken, and people even from outside the city have spoken about all the pollution we're already dealing with, the Superfund sites, the lakefront pollution from all the industry, the 400 unregulated dump sites, toxic dump sites in the city. Why in the world would you want to go along with, you know, even if these people are just con men and they're really not doing this, maybe they're just speculating, who knows? I don't know what they're up to, really. They don't seem to be for real. But you know, you've got this artesian well spring down the street, which is recreational, which has to do with the environment. And that's the kind of thing that should go into an area that's already been raped. And maybe there's a way to turn that around. But adding more industry, and especially polluting industry, especially garbage, is not an answer. And I'm hoping that you will find a way to get out of this, because we don't want it. We absolutely don't want it. Do we have to bring half the city down here to tell you that? Do we have to jump up and down? I mean, what do we have to do to let you know that the people who elected the mayor, you know, and the mayor spoke for the people and spoke based on factual information about what this would do to the environment. It isn't just, it just isn't.
The point's been taken. We appreciate it.
Well, I certainly hope so, because, you know, thing has been dragging on forever.
Well, we have an open forum here, and we appreciate your opinion. We don't shut people down.
But you're telling me to sit down.
No, I didn't say, there's time, we've gone beyond what normal time.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it's important to go beyond, because this is, you know, you took a lot of time with other communities tonight. And I feel like we've been given short shrift.
I don't think the initial discussion went lightly, that we took those steps lightly. But at this point in time, we're going through the process. The payment's been made. Now the next step.
What is the next step?
I guess that might be up to the Gary,
That's exactly
Gary,
right.
the city of Gary, and their elected officials.
The way
They're the ones that.
Yeah, so this is just basically step one, right? The permit that Maya has to go through all kinds of regulatory approvals, right? Correct?
Right.
Your city planner has to do that.
Well, that's already happened.
Your zoning, no, it has not.
Yes, it has.
From my understanding,
Maya.
it has.
Yes.
And did they approve it?
Initially, yes.
No, did they approve it?
Initially.
And they approved the zoning change as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They did all of that, but then they wanted to back out of it, and they couldn't, because Maya said they were going to sue.
Well, this commission, right, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, commission. This is just for the permitting. Whatever they do after that has to pass your city planners and regulatory approvals, including the Illinois or Indiana Department of Environment.
Yeah, well, that's where they're at right now. with
Okay,
ours.
so this commission right now is just basically leverage just to get the permit. And that's what their approval is.
Well, it is to hold on to the land, isn't it, through the lease agreement? No, okay. I know, and I'm not blaming
And
this commission for the fact that they're there.
Ma'am, I would,
It's not your fault.
respectfully, the tone that you're taking with us is that we're trying to allow someone to come into your community and build something you don't want. That's not what we're here for. This commission doesn't do that.
I would hope not. I would
Again,
hope
you're
not.
applying and your tone says otherwise. So I respectfully just for you.
May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ms. McCready, I think you
Yes.
did an excellent job of presenting your position for the city of Gary and for the people, for GUARD organization that's in Gary. And I encourage you to keep up the fight and moving forward, because I'm going to be fighting with you on this particular project. You already know where I stand with Maya, so I compliment you. But we do have to follow certain procedures, and I'm pretty sure that we will succeed. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Is there anyone online that wants to speak?
Real quick, I just wanted to give a quick update on our Little Calumet Conservation Collaborative. We had some contractor work in the last couple weeks happen, marsh master treatments at Trey Street wetlands. Also, the Highland Heron Rookery had marsh master treatments as well. So trying to get the last bit of time, taking advantage of the last bit of time for treating Phragmites and so forth. So went well. Also, we did an aerial treatment with a helicopter over at MLK South a few weeks ago as well. That went pretty well too. We were able to hit some of the areas at MLK that needed, of course, frag to be treated. So we're happy with that. Also, our crew has now transitioned from the herbaceous work now to woody removal work for winter. So that'll be continuing. Also, we had a tree planting recently at Bethune Early Childhood Development School on 21st Avenue in Gary. We planted approximately 30 trees with the Student Conservation Association. Also, conservation or the Wetlands Initiative and TNC and some others helped us and went really well. The kids came out and helped us with some of that, so we're really happy there. And also, we had a plug planting at MLK South back in late August. We planted several thousand plugs with the biology department at IUN with Spencer Courtright, the professor there. Also, TNC and some of our other partners were out there to help, and so went really well. And so just want to give you that quick update on everything that's been going on. So
Thank you.
yep, welcome.
We're gonna take one brief moment. Dan's got the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
results of the bid opening.
As I read them, and these will all be sent to our attorney and the engineer, Burke, who will look at it closely. But the first bid, as we got it, was FH Passion, S&N Nielsen and Associates, with a bid that I saw at $9,302,401.33. $9,302,401.33. The second one that came in was Grimmer Construction Incorporated. Their bid came in at $7,986,715.70. That's $7,986,715.70. And then last is Earthworks Land Development and Development Corporation. Their bid, as I saw it, was $8,585,513.30. That's $8,585,513.30. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to send these to Burke, who will look at it more closely, as well as our attorney. And hopefully we'll have a recommendation at a future meeting.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Yes, sir.
Gary Lee from Gary, Indiana. Just a quick thing on the Maya thing. If I understand this correctly, it's a lease. They have a lease with the Little Calumet River Commission.
License agreement.
License agreement.
Yes.
All my years in business, if we wanted out of any kind of an agreement, then circumstances change, we try to negotiate out of it. Have you thought about approaching Maya and maybe refunding some of their
At
lease
this
money?
point, we're going through a process. There was a certain window of time that they were required to make a payment, and they did. So,
but
we still haven't
what
done
I'm-
anything beyond that.
What I'm saying is, even if they aren't in default, I'm asking this commission to approach Maya and negotiate themselves out of your agreement.
Take it under advisement.
Okay, that's what I asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're gonna go down the list here. Ron, comments?
Just want to thank all the presenters this evening. A number of projects were brought to us. Very interesting, and I appreciate all the hard work that went into the presentations and all the public comments.
Move on.
Can't hear you. Muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Repeating Ron's.
I'm not the chair yet, vice chair.
Oh, you're the chair in charge.
There you go.
Reiterating Commissioner Ware's comments about thanking the public for coming out and all of the presentations. I think I say this from time to time, and I'll sort of reiterate it again. The quality of our presentations are just getting a lot better, and I think it's contribute to our review as well as our feedback, and as well as the commitment that the presenters make to go back and anticipate what we may ask. And so thanks a lot for making our jobs a lot easier, because normally we'd be there at 8 o'clock. Still going through presentations by presentation. So thank you to all the presenters for making our jobs a lot easier and a lot more qualitative as well. I certainly want to commend the folks that came out and voiced their concern about the Meyer Energy license agreement. Surely share your sentiments. It's kind of hard for us to get a gauge on what's going on overall, what direction we can really take this in. I certainly don't. I first voted against it originally, and I'm adamantly opposed to it still today. I haven't seen a direct presentation from them originally, and so I'm skeptical about exactly what it is that they have to offer that they have not brought forth after 5 years almost. So I would hope that everyone will continue to voice their concerns and make their effort to continue to do whatever is necessary, not limited to the types of things that you're concerned about opposing as a priority, but increasing the improving the watershed as well overall. There are tons of other initiatives that will pay dividends, recreational, as well as energy conservation speaking, alternative energy speaking, that will certainly be much more beneficial substitutes than projects like these. I'm hoping that, one of the things with the presentations that you heard tonight, a lot of these presentations tie into development and recreation, as well as addressing watershed issues, as opposed to what we tend to get stuck with in Geary, which are projects proposed like Maya, or some of the things that we already have, such as miniature abatement sites all throughout the city. That certainly does not help with educational attainment, certainly does not help with home valuation, and it certainly does not help with quality of life. So I would ask my fellow commissioners to certainly keep that at the forefront of their minds when they're in their respective communities and throughout the watershed community as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair, in charge.
Mr. Gozdecki.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank the presenters, and I'd like to thank the public for voicing their concerns and opinions.
Mr. Oche.
Same, and I would like to definitely thank Marty and the Hammond Sanitary District. I'm a resident in Hammond, and Marty, I got to meet with you guys last week just to go over this presentation. And there's something to be said about innovation, right? And what we do with the water, how we treat it. And I like what I've heard tonight and last week about strategically, and Marty, how you're addressing all the concerns with the 5 communities that touch the Little Calumet River. So I applaud Mr. Massey too. and Marty and your consultants for looking at innovative ways of treating water and putting it back into the river. It just enhances our quality of life. And, we look at things at this board, at least these commissioners, as far as the last 3 years, and everyone on this commission looks things at from a very objective lens, right? We're very objective to what we look at as far as engineering and water treatments and stormwater. So I applaud you guys for taking the extra step and the initiative to look at alternative ways of treating water. I think that should be applauded tonight.
Mr. Derek. I have nothing to add. David Castellanos.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, I'd like to also echo some of the sentiments that Robert Ochi made. First of all, I compliment all of the presenters, especially the Hammond presenters in regards to that new technology. And we have a radio program that happens once a month, and I would love to have you guys on just to talk about that for the rest of Northwest Indiana, not just for those 3 communities there, because I think it's going to be a big imprint for us. For the safety and concern for everybody in our community. Also, I want to also echo thank you, Ms. McCready and Ms. Doreen Carey for coming out, voicing your opinion for the city of Gary. I know I talked to a lot of members from preachers, all various community groups about the Maya situation, and I agree with you 100%. As far as cleaning up our community, Gary's coming back, and by you being here fighting along with everybody, it's going to come back and it's going to enhance the whole community. Now, on next Monday, on WLTH 92.7, we're going to have a special guest on the 24th. So if everybody gets a chance and opportunity, please get a chance and listen in for what we're going to do. Thank you again. God bless you, and be safe on your way home.
Thank you. And reiterate what everybody else said. Great presentations tonight. I appreciate everybody that came out tonight. And our next meeting will be on November 16th. And that will be here right now. If that changes, we will let you know. That will be determined by the chairman, which is he's detained today. So with that, we'll make a motion. Second.
So moved.
Motion a second. Do we need to vote on that to adjourn? Really? Okay.
Tom Shinski.
Yes.
Tom Becky.
Yes.
Derek Nivett.
Yes.
Steve Castellano.
Yes.
Ron Ware.
Yes.
Robert Ochi.
Yes.
Levon Whitaker.
Yes.
All right. See everybody next month. Good job, Mr. Vice Chairman. Yes.